I was doing a program for men, helping them lose weight. It was older men, 45 to 65 years old. And we were doing it was without exercise, right? So I don't have anything against exercise due to my military background. But I had done some research and I had found that it was unhealthy to exercise with belly fat. And so I didn't want my guys hurt, so I just told them not to exercise and to do the program because that's what I started out with. I had gone for 60 days, lost weight, and then had then moved on to the next phase, phase 2, which was to build core strength. And then the next phase was to build muscle mass, right? Strength, power. And all the guys had such victories where they hadn't been able to lose weight before, and now they've got these lean bodies again, and they were like, man, I want more, man. I want more. I want to get back in the best shape of my life, and I did too, right? And so I was doing these exercises, core strength, and then on up to building muscle mass. And then the next phase was endurance training, right? So the last time I went on a long run or something like that, it's been a long, long time. And so I just started out running down the driveway, right? That's just what I was going to do. So I walked it a few times, and then this one I was just trotting. My wife had gone to pick up my boys from school, and so I was just going to do a quick run, hit the shower, and then back to work, right? And so I'm running down the driveway. I got almost to my mailbox, right? So it's maybe about 200 yards. And right about that point, I felt something weird in my chest. And when I say weird, it wasn't like this slamming pain that I've heard other people talk about. Mine was just sort of this, something ain't right? I think there's like 48 million heartbeats per year. And you multiply that times 54 years, and we're talking about a lot of heartbeats, and it's been consistent for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden, hey, you ain't never done that before. Like, what are you saying, right? And so it was enough, and it was quivering. I was trying to find where it was. So it was deep. So I was trying to find where it was in my heart, right, or around that area. And I thought, wow, is this a heart attack? I was trying to remember all those things that I've read, like on the web and stuff, that say, how do you know if you're having a heart attack, right? And I'm like, and I went down on one knee, kind of out of, it's just something that we always did when somebody's harmed, right? We always went to one knee, let him get past it so we can get up and move on. And so I went down to one knee, and I just immediately saw the ground, and I was like, no, I don't want to be anywhere near the ground. So I stood back up, and I started walking back towards the house. And that was the first time I've ever been scared in a long time. I was really scared. And it's a very vulnerable place. Like when I think back about it, there's a fence that runs along the driveway, and horse pasture over here and a horse pasture over there. And so I was walking down that fence, and I started thinking, I don't know, did something break loose and it's, gonna get clogged somewhere, and then it's, lights out after that. And so I was worried about what's next, what's about to happen maybe. And so I was walking, and I was just hanging on to that fence. It's barbed wire, so I wasn't sliding along it, but so I was just walking along it. And I was looking over the side of it, and I was looking at the high grass. And I literally was planning that if I felt something coming on, I was going to throw myself over the fence and land in the weeds, because when my wife was going to come home, she was going to turn into that driveway, and she would have both of my boys, Braxton at the time was 1, and Tristan was 5. And so all I could picture was what would be the impact on my wife if she turned and I'm laying in the driveway. What would be the impact on those boys? Would they ever get over something like that, right? And I would rather, this was my justification, I would rather die in the weeds and them not find my body for a while than to have that picture turning into the driveway and seeing Daddy on the driveway. And so I was walking that fence and I was thinking about, would I have the strength to throw myself over? Because when you've seen somebody have a heart attack, man, it's donezo, man. Like there ain't nothing left, right? There's no energy. When the blood goes out, it's done. And so I made it back to the house and I headed into the shower. And for some reason, I've always just had this thought that if I can get it into the shower, then everything I'm going to wash clean and, inside and out, right? And so I took a shower, and after I shut off the water, I was drying off, and I heard the garage door open. And so I came out right when my boys were around in the corner. And it was one of those things where you see them every day, but it ain't like today. So I just dropped down and I just squeezed my son Tristan, and I just couldn't let him go. It was just so precious. And when my wife walked around the corner, she's like, "Hi, babe," and I'm just like looking at her like, ah. And so I just grabbed a hold of her and I just kissed her, and and it was precious, right? Life was precious. And I had gone from kind of that strong stud rock of the family, and in my mind, almost invincible, because I thought I took good care of myself. I thought I ate better than anybody. And but that was based upon a set of criteria that the books had given me, that doctors had given me, that people had given me, and that's led a lot of people down the wrong road. And so that was the point at which it started my journey. And I try to emphasize, like, how would you research if your life depended on it, right? It's like, how fast can you run? Well, you don't know until somebody's shooting at you. So you get real fast. And how deep will you research when you're thinking about your boys, when you're thinking about your wife, when you're thinking about your family? And man, I dug all in. I was not willing to guess. I was not willing to leave any stone unturned. And, call it providence, call it whatever you want, but I was lucky to collide with the information, and I was, let me just say, hungry enough with no arrogance, right? So I'm not going to say no because they were looking at cause and effect. They're looking right at the clogged part. They weren't looking at risk factors. And I said, my gosh, this is so simple. It makes total sense. And what's the risk, right? That's exactly what I asked them. What's the risk? If I go in for a stent or something like that, it's $40,000. And is that foolproof? No, most of them are done, like they're clogged again in 7 years. Bypass, $200,000, right? A lot of those, they don't hold. And so I went with it. And then it was like, okay, the test is to run, right? And so I took off down the driveway and past the mailbox and turned right and ran up there and then turned left and run straight up that hill. I even have this little whippersnapper that was running around on his bicycle, going to run a race, and I didn't beat him, but I certainly was willing to push my heart as hard as I could. Right? And so I would say that I beat this one, right? And how selfish would that experience be if I didn't help my fellow man? And so if I can just help one other brother, one other sister, then it's all worth it.